Hello, everyone. Welcome to another book adventure about helpers. Before we get started, let's do a word puzzle. Okay, let's see if we can figure this word out before all the letters are on it. This would be a yo-yo. So this is going to be a word that starts with the letter Y. What kind of word would be this long that starts with Y? Here is a lock, so there's an L for lock. At the end, I see a spider's web, so I'm thinking that's probably W for web and not S for spider web, but we'll find out. If something doesn't make sense, we can always fix it. I see an L for leaf. What word do you know that starts with Y, has two L's and a W at the end? You know what word this is yet? You have an E for elephant. We have an O for octopus. It gives us the word yellow. So sometimes when someone feels afraid, people will say that they are yellow. The character in this book is anything but afraid because she uses her kindness to find helpers. The story is called Bony Legs. Bony Legs by Joanna Cole. Pictures by Dirk Zimmer. The dedication says, to Rachel J.C., to Diana D.Z. There's a little blurb over there. It says, in the folktales of Russia, a witch called Baba Yaga, nicknamed the bony-legged one, often appears. The story in this book is based on the tale Baba Yaga in Russian fairy tales by Alexander Afanasyev. Bony Legs was a horrible, bad witch. She could run very fast on her bony old legs. Her teeth were made of iron, and she liked to eat little children. She lived deep in the woods, in a hut that stood on chicken feet. All day long, she waited for children to pass by. On the edge of the same woods, a girl named Sasha lived with her aunt. One morning, Sasha's aunt sent her out to borrow a needle and thread. Sasha took some bread and butter and a bit of meat for lunch. She began to walk. She walked and walked. She was surprised when she came to a hut that stood on chicken feet. She decided to go inside. She opened the gate. It creaked and groaned. Poor gate, said Sasha. You need some grease. She scraped the butter from her bread and rubbed it on the hinges of the gate. It opened quietly. Sasha walked up the path. A skinny dog stood in her way. It barked and barked. Poor dog, said Sasha. You look hungry. She gave her bread to the dog. He ate it up and did not bark again. A cat was sitting near the hut, mewing sadly. Poor kitty, said Sasha. Are you hungry too? She gave her meat to the cat. Old Bony legs poked her head out of the window. What do you want? She asked Sasha. My aunt would like to borrow a needle and thread, said Sasha. Oh, come right in, said the witch. Sasha went inside. Now, said Bony Legs, get into the tub. Why? Asked Sasha. I don't need a bath. I want you nice and clean, said Bony Legs. I'm going to cook you for my supper. She grinned and showed her iron teeth. Then she went outside to gather sticks for the fire. She locked the door behind her. Sasha was scared. She began to cry. Don't cry, said a voice. I will help you. Sasha looked around. No one was there but the cat. Fill the tub, but don't get in, said the cat. Sasha had never heard a cat talk, but she did what it told her. Bony Legs called through the door. Are you washing, girl? Yes, I am, said Sasha. Good, said Bony Legs, and she went away to gather more sticks. After she had gone, the cat gave Sasha a silver mirror. When you are in trouble, throw this away, said the cat. That does not make sense, thought Sasha, but she took the mirror and put it in her pocket. Now run, said the cat. Sasha climbed out the window and began to run. The witch called through the door again. Are you washing, girl? Yes, I am, said the cat. Well, hurry up, said Bony Legs. Then she went away. Sasha ran through the yard. The dog stopped her and gave her a wooden comb. When you need help, throw this away, said the dog. That does not make sense, thought Sasha, but she put the comb in her pocket. Then she opened the gate. It did not make a sound on its buttered hinges. Sasha ran into the woods. Bony Legs called through the door again. Are you washing, girl? Yes, I am, said the cat. What? Said Bony Legs. Not done yet? She flung open the door. There was the cat. There was the tub. But where was Sasha? Oh, you sneaky cat, yelled Bony Legs. Why did you trick me? You never fed me, said the cat, but Sasha gave me meat to eat. Bah! Said Bony Legs, and she ran into the yard. The dog was sleeping in the sun. You lazy dog, shouted Bony Legs. Why didn't you bark at her? You never fed me, said the dog, but Sasha gave me bread to eat. Bah! Said the witch, and she rushed to the gate. You worthless gate! She screamed. Why didn't you lock her in? You never took care of me, said the gate, but Sasha put butter on my hinges. The old witch flew into a rage. She stamped her feet, pulled her hair, and even pinched her own nose, but she did not feel any better. Bah! She ran after Sasha on her bony old legs. Sasha looked back and saw the witch's iron teeth glinting in the sun. Sasha was scared. She remembered the silver mirror. She took it out of her pocket and threw it behind her. The mirror became a deep silver lake. Bony Legs could not cross it. She ran home and got her tub. She rowed it across the lake and ran after Sasha on her bony old legs. Sasha saw the witch coming again. She remembered the wooden comb. She took it out of her pocket and threw it behind her. The comb grew until it was as tall as 3 trees. Bony Legs could not climb over it. She could not dig under it. She could not even squeeze through it. At last she gave up, and she stamped her feet, pulled her hair, and pinched her nose all the way back to her hut. Bah! Sasha went home too, and you can be sure she never went back to the hut that stood on chicken feet. And for as long as she lived, she never saw old Bony Legs again. Huh. Now that I've read this book again, I can see that Sasha really was scared, but it didn't stop her from doing what she needed to do. She found 3 helpers, and she found those helpers because she was kind to them, and they were kind in turn to her. Being kind is very useful when you're trying to be helpful. One way to be kind is to remind people that they're important to you. A fun way to do that is to make a paper hug. I have some paper, pencil, something to color with, some scissors, and a stapler. You can also use some tape. You first need to take one of these 2 pieces of paper and trace your hands on it. Have you done this before? For an art project, trace your hands. You have to hold your hand very still while you draw around it. Then you have to do this for the other one. It's hard to see my pencil lines, isn't it? The nice thing about pencil lines is you can cover them up with marker, and if I trace my hands with marker, then I end up getting marker on my hands. I'm just going to draw a little curved line at the bottom here. Let's see. I'm going to outline them with a color, any color I like. There we go. Now, I could probably decorate them. I think I'll put pink polka dots on this one. Perhaps on this one, some green stripes. Coloring outside of the lines is okay, since I'll be cutting these out. All right, now that I've got my 2 hands, I need to cut them out. You cut them out carefully, separating the fingers if you like. I think just so I can show you really quickly how to make this, I'm just going to cut it out like this, which is a way you can do it. There. Now I have 2 hands. Now I need some arms. So I take this piece of paper, and I'm going to cut it, or fold it in half first, and then fold it in half again. That way, when I unfold it, I have 4 skinny rectangles, which I cut out. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. I need to put these together. I'm going to use a stapler just because that's what I have. Tape is also nice to use for this. You see how I'm overlapping them? And I need one more. You can use any paper you have around to make this. You can reuse paper or packaging that you have around. Now I'm going to put one of my hands on one end. Just like that. And I'll put the other hand on this end, like that. I've got a hand on each side now. Now you see I can write a message along the white paper or draw some pictures for somebody that I care about. I can fold this up and put it into an envelope. Then even if they are far away, they have a hug from me. It works just like that. I've got it inside out. See, that is how you make a paper hug. Who do you know who you could make one of these for and mail it to them? You have someone who lives far away from you that you don't see very often. Maybe they might like something like that from you. So, kindness helps the character in this book to get what he wants. The main character of this book is none other than the mighty West Wind. And the story, if you can tell, this book is very old and yellowed. The story is called Little Pieces of the West Wind. This book is old because I have had it most of my life. Just look at this dear old book. Little Pieces of the West Wind. Story by Christian Garrison. Pictures by Diane Good. For AWG or David. Once there was a clever old man who had lost his socks. I know a way to get back my socks, said the clever old man to himself. He opened his door and all of the windows, and then sat down to wait for the west wind. That afternoon, the west wind came blustering through the open doors and windows of the cabin. Just as the west wind entered, the clever old man jumped up, slammed shut the door, and closed all of the windows with a bang. Ha! He said to the west wind. I have caught you. Sure enough, the wild west wind blew and bounced about inside the cabin, but was unable to get away. What do you want of me, old man? Bellowed the west wind. I have lost my socks, and I want you to find them for me, said the clever old man. I am the wild and reckless west wind. I work for no man, wailed the west wind. He swelled and blew and crashed against the window, but could not find so much as a tiny crack to seep through. The clever old man chuckled, and the west wind finally agreed to do as he asked. But I do not trust you, west wind, so I will keep a little piece of you here with me until you return with my socks. With that, the clever old man pulled off a piece of the west wind and wrapped it in a rug. Then he opened the window. What was left of the mighty west wind blew away to look for the clever old man's socks. Soon the west wind came upon a woodchopper who was wearing socks on his hands. "You make a funny sight with socks on your hands," said the west wind with a whistle. "Who cares?" grunted the woodchopper without looking up. "Where are your gloves?" asked the west wind. "Lost," grumbled the woodchopper. "Let me have those socks," hissed the west wind. "No," said the woodchopper, "not unless you find my gloves." The west wind sputtered and howled. At last he agreed to do as the woodchopper asked. "But I do not trust you, west wind, so I will keep a little piece of you here with me until you return with my gloves." With that, the woodchopper chopped off a piece of the west wind and put it inside a hollow log and stopped up the hole. And what was left of the mighty west wind blew through the trees to look for the woodchopper's gloves. Soon the west wind came upon a gypsy who was wearing a pair of gloves on her head. "You make a funny sight with gloves on your head," wailed the west wind. "Goodness me, do I?" giggled the gypsy, blushing from head to toe. "Have you no scarf?" the west wind asked. "I cannot find it anywhere," said she. "I would like to have those gloves," said the west wind. "I should say not, you silly wind," snapped the gypsy. "But if you bring me back my scarf, then you may have these gloves." The west wind shook the trees and rustled the leaves, but finally agreed to do as she asked. "But I do not trust you, west wind, so I will keep a little piece of you here with me until you return with my scarf." With that, the gypsy pinched off a piece of the west wind and placed it inside her tea tin where she kept her tea leaves, and what was left of the once mighty west wind wandered away to look for the gypsy's scarf. Soon the west wind came upon a sheep who had a scarf around his leg. "You make a funny sight with that scarf around your leg," wheezed the west wind. "Meh!" cried the sheep. "Why are you wearing that scarf?" the west wind asked. "Because I have lost my blue ribbon I won at the fair," sobbed the sheep. "Give me the scarf, sheep," said the west wind. "No," said the sheep. "Go find my blue ribbon, then I shall gladly give you this scarf." The west wind was too tired by now to fuss and fume, and he agreed to do as the sheep asked. "I do not trust you, west wind, so I will keep a little piece of you here with me until you return with my blue ribbon." With that, the sheep bit off a piece of the west wind and stuffed it under his haystack to keep, and what was left of the once mighty west wind floated off to look for the sheep's blue ribbon. Soon the west wind came upon a bird who had a blue ribbon in her tail. "You make a funny sight with that blue ribbon in your tail," whispered the West Wind. "You would too," chirped the bird. "Have you lost your tail feather?" the West Wind asked. "Yes, indeed," sang she. "May I please have that blue ribbon, bird?" whined the West Wind. "You may not," said the bird. "Find my tail feather, and you may have this blue ribbon." All the West Wind could do was sigh and agree to do as the bird asked. "But I do not trust you, West Wind, so I will keep a little piece of you here with me until you return with my tail feather." With that, the bird pecked off a piece of the West Wind and stuck it in her nest to keep. By now, the West Wind was nothing more than a puff of breeze as he went to look for the bird's tail feather. At last, the West Wind came upon a little girl who was playing with a feather. "Please give me your feather, young lady," sighed the West Wind. "I can barely hear you. Why do you whisper, and who are you?" the little girl asked. "The mighty West Wind," said he. "Why, you are nothing more than a tiny puff of breeze," she replied. "That is because others have pulled, chopped, pinched, bitten, and pecked away little pieces of me," the West Wind whispered. "I'll give you this feather, West Wind, but will you come back to see me every afternoon to cool me off and keep me company?" He was too weak to refuse, so the tiny puff of breeze that was once the mighty West Wind took the feather and went away to keep all of the bargains he had made that day. The bird got back her tail feather and returned the blue ribbon and the little piece of wind. The sheep got back his blue ribbon and returned the scarf and the little piece of wind. The gypsy got back her scarf and returned the pair of gloves and the little piece of wind. The woodchopper got back his gloves and returned the pair of socks and the little piece of wind. The West Wind was growing mighty and strong again by the time he arrived at the cabin of the clever old man. "Come out, old man! I have returned with your socks, and I want the piece of me you are keeping." Gladly, the clever old man unwrapped the rug and let out the piece of wind he was keeping there, and that made the West Wind whole again. The clever old man chuckled and sat down to put on his socks, and the mighty West Wind blustered away. So this book refers to this character as a gypsy, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the word gypsy as a word used to describe the Romani people who came from India, traveled through the Middle East, North Africa, and Europe hundreds of years ago, and they still survive today. But through hundreds of years, they've actually been treated very badly. Many of them have even been killed. And the word gypsy was given to them in Europe. In Romania, the Romani people are different than Romanian people because the Romani were actually slaves in Romania for many hundreds of years. So through all this history, the word gypsy has been used as a slur or a word that is actually not very nice. It's used as a word to describe someone who is playful or magical, someone free to be themselves, expressive, sometimes shown and clothed in these kind of old patched clothes. But the problem is that even though it's fun and entertaining to use that word to describe this kind of people, it kind of takes away from who the Romani people actually are. So if you go and learn more about the Romani people and learn more about the way this word is used, you can actually help their culture to survive. This is why it's important to read and learn about words and how they're used. Whereas everyone else decided they had to keep pieces of the West Wind, the little girl only wanted kindness. What will you be able to do to show kindness to the people in your life? Because it's a wonderful way to be helpful. I'll see you next week for more book adventures. Take care.